Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So, how are you?
Fine.
Alhamdulillah. Uh, Dear students, as you know that this is the first class of uh, one of the important course of this MBA IBF Islamic Banking, and I'm so sorry that I joined you quite late. Reason is that practically speaking, I was not aware that I have to engage this subject. Although last year also I engaged the same, but there is some confusion. That is why, and then I was slightly busy with some official work. So, first of all, my apology for interacting you so late. But nevertheless, I'm happy that you already have one course going on, which is the basics of Islamic finance, right? Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
So, uh, I'm sure that you are already attending the classes of basics of Islamic finance, which Mr. Tariq is engaging right now. And I believe that as a student of Islamic banking, now you have fairly good idea about Islamic finance. And the idea about Islamic finance is that you should understand the difference between conventional finance vis-a-vis to Islamic finance. That is the sole purpose. Uh, we know we know that this subject of Islamic finance is introduced in our department. I don't know whether you are aware of this. I just wanted to tell you a brief history. This Islamic banking course was introduced in our department way back in 2010 as a postgraduate diploma in Islamic banking and finance. And that was the period in 2010 when I newly joined the department because I have just completed my MBA and then I joined the department. So I was given this responsibility to start teaching in this course of diploma, 1 year diploma. Uh, uh, Now after this, now we ran this program for about 7 8 years as a postgraduate diploma in Islamic banking and finance, which was a 1 year course. Thankfully, in 2017 onward, 2018 onward, we have converted this program into a MBA Islamic banking, a 2 year complete MBA program. Now, some of the courses like Basic of Islamic Finance, Islamic Economics, which I'm going to start with, are very fundamental paper, and these were the paper which was there in the course of diploma, and they have been converted when this has been converted into MBA. These courses are transferred as it is. Now, these courses, we have included these courses in the curriculum of MBIBF in consultation with various other universities. Because at the time of the launch of this program, we consulted several universities who are already offering the course of Islamic banking and finance, especially the university in Malaysia, Islamic University of Malaysia. We are in touch with universities in UK, Qatar Foundations, and all. They have provided their useful input in designing the curriculum of MBA Islamic banking and finance. Because I was involved right from the start, I'm lucky that I have seen all ups and downs in this course, right? And I'm lucky to say that I am teaching in this course of Islamic banking and finance right from its induction. Uh, you are the second batch, I believe. Yeah, you are the second batch of MBA Islamic banking and finance, right? Uh, we have a lot of expectations from you, and you too also have the same expectation from us. So our duty and our responsibility is that we should deliver a quality academic input to all of you. And once we get over with quality academic input in the form of delivering the lectures and assessment and case studies and all, we will also expose you with summer internship or internship in a good financial firm, so that you would relate what you are learning in the class with it, what is going on in the corporate world, especially in the area of Islamic banking, which is not an easy job, which is very challenging. I will take up the session separately on the internship part. Today, uh, I would like to start my subject, a course, which is the part of this curriculum, which is Islamic economics. The root, the root of each subject in Islamic banking is how do we differentiate it with conventional subjects? You are learning the paper of managerial economics or economics for managers, I would say. You have already learned, right? This subject of managerial economics was in second semester, and Professor Waleed and Dr. Tariq has already given a lot of academic inputs to you. The purpose of Islamic economics is to make you aware, is expose you about the difference in conventional economics vis-a-vis to Islamic economics. What else we are going to discuss with you in this paper of Islamic economics? What are the fundamentals of Islamic economics? What are the guidelines? What are the rules and regulations of Islamic economics? That is the purpose of the discussion of this course. That is the purpose of the discussion for the classes. Right? So, without wasting much of your time, I would like to start my discussion. But my starting point is that I would like to show you the syllabus of Islamic economics, whereby you will get an idea about the various content that I am going to deliver and I am going to interact with you. Right? Uh, so I'm sharing my screen. Just one. This is this is the core, syllabus of Islamic economics, which we have designed. Now, like any other subject, the 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 uh, the course, the curriculum of Islamic economics is also divided in 5 units. And as usual, every unit has its own objective. Every unit has its own purpose to serve. Right. So let me navigate. Let me pass through from each unit or or chapter of this syllabus. Right. Starting with unit number one. I always remember in your mind that what is the purpose of Islamic economics? It tells you about the basic principles, the fundamentals of Islamic economics. And primarily, we just wanted to differentiate Islamic economics with conventional economics. That is our core purpose. Definitely, when we are differentiating Islamic economics with conventional economics, the first fundamental that I would like to discuss it with you is about the basics of Islam, the basics of the Sharia. And there comes into picture the first and important thing, which you might have an idea, is the concept which are the background of Islamic economics, especially our point of view of the relationship between man and environment, our faith on God, right? Then we also talk about Islamic's point of view on various property. We also give you an idea about business organization or the enterprise from the eyes of Islamic economics. कि अब तक आपने पढ़ा है कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन क्या होती है मैनेजमेंट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. नाउ दिस इज द फर्स्ट टाइम यू विल गेट एन इनसाइट व्हाट इज द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन फ्रॉम इस्लामिक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. We sometimes call it as enterprise, we call it as organization, we call it as company, whatever. We also try to brief you about the role of state, the country. That is, the role of country means the governance, the government, their ideology. All play a very, very important role in shaping the Islamic establishment of Islamic economic system. So first and the fundamental thing is our faith on God. Number two, the teachings of Islam about the various aspects of economics. Number three, special focus on company, the enterprise, the organization, right? And the other aspects of the man-environment relationship. What is the perspective from Islamic point of view? That is, we are going to cover in unit number 1. Unit number 1 is basically a conceptual unit. And once the concepts are clear, then it would be very easy for us to build up our understanding on the other aspects. Now, the core concept of Islamic economics start from unit number 2. I mean to say, by core concept, I mean to say the technical concept, which you have learned. Now, first and the foremost technical concept from Islamic banking point of view, which you have already learned in your paper of Basics of Islamic Finance, is the major prohibitions. वो क्या क्या चीजें हैं जो इस्लामिक बैंकिंग पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से प्रोहिबिट की गई. And the discussion here is in this unit number 2 is about all those aspects which are prohibited. And in the list of prohibitions, which you have already learned in your paper of Basic of Islamic Economics, the number 1 is, yes please, the number 1 is, what are the key prohibitions of Islamic banking and finance?
Riba.
Riba.
What do we
Riba,
call
Maisir, and Gharar.
Riba. What do we call riba? Can we use another word in place of riba?
Interest.
Any other word? Usury, right?
Increase.
So be it riba, be it interest, be it usury, be it in proportionate increase, which somebody have said, all comes under the domain of riba. Now, we just wanted to tell you a conceptual overview of riba. We would like to discuss with you how bank interest is prohibited and what are the scientific reasons of prohibition. हमारे इस्लामिक बैंकिंग और इस्लामिक में ये नहीं है कि prohibition बगैर किसी लॉजिक के है. Whenever something is prohibited, it is prohibited with some reason, right? Along with riba, you have also heard about the gharar. What is gharar stands for, by the way? What is gharar?
Speculation.
Sir, interest more than the normal rate of interest.
What is
The
gharar?
interest, sir, the interest more than the normal rate of interest.
That is gharar. So that is a part of riba. What is gharar? I am asking about gharar.
Sir, uncertain business transaction.
Exactly. Uncertainty, which is uncalculated, which is unprecedented, which is illogical, which is unscientific. ऐसी कोई भी अनसर्टेनिटी जिसका कोई कैलकुलेशन नहीं है, जिसका कोई रीजन नहीं है, जिसका कोई लॉजिक नहीं है, that uncertainty is we have gharar, right? And that we will discuss with you about the technicality of gharar, why it is prohibited. So riba, gharar are the two major prohibitions in Islamic banking and finance, which is very relevant from the point of view of economics. और भी बहुत सारे prohibitions हैं, लेकिन वो इस्लामिक इकोनॉमिक्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इतने रेलेवेंट नहीं है. हम उन prohibitions की बात कर रहे हैं which are very much relevant from the point of view of Islamic economics, right? Then other than that, we also talk about, because this is economics which we are talking about, so you have already learned in your paper of conventional economics about the concept of competition, the various scenario of competition, the various type of market in competition, So competition and cooperation. What is the concept of competition and cooperation from Islamic economics point of view? That we need to explore. कि अब तक तो आपने कन्वेंशनल इकोनॉमिक्स में पढ़ा था ये, लेकिन इस्लामिक इकोनॉमिक्स बारे में क्या कहता है? What are the point of view of Islamic economists? Are sources of Islamic economics about the various competition and cooperation that we will discuss with you, right? Risk sharing versus risk shifting. Now, this is the fundamental difference between Islamic finance and conventional finance. Conventional finance में क्या होता है? The concept of conventional finance is risk transfer, risk shifting. एक एंटिटी से दूसरे एंटिटी पे रिस्क को ट्रांसफर करना. Whereas in case of Islamic economics, Islamic banking, we have risk sharing, not risk transfer. How do we share the risk? What is this concept of risk sharing and risk shifting from Islamic economics point of view? That we will explore. We all know that one of the important aspects of economic system is its stability. How stable the Islamic economic systems are. What are the various provisions of stability from Islamic economics point of view that we are going to discuss with you in this subject of Islamic economics. Then unit number 3, when we move to unit number 3, this is more towards the marketing side, and you have learned in your paper of marketing management about consumer behavior. Here we will try to talk about the consumer and various aspects of consumer and company from Islamic banking point of view, from Islamic economics point of view, right? We will talk about consumer behavior, we will talk about producers behavior, that is companies behavior, right? What are the various policies on Islamic consumer behavior point of view that we are going to deliver. Unit number 4 is primarily talking about the important concept of income distribution, because Islamic principle based on equitable distribution of income from each section of society. Now, what are the basic various principles of distribution that we will discuss with you? First of all, why there is a need of uniform distribution? आखिर distribution की जरूरत क्या है? This is the first question that we need to answer, and then we will talk about our instrument like zakat and a huge source in the form of awqaf. What is this awqaf? Awqaf is a plural of something. What is this awqaf? Anybody? What is this awqaf? zakat तो आप सब लोग जानते होंगे. औकाफ जानते हैं क्या होता है?
सर मे बी वक्फ की जो
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सही कहा.
उसका प्लूरल होगा.
राइट. औकाफ इज अ प्लूरल ऑफ वक्फ. I don't know how many of you are aware of that. We have a very rich source. I'm talking about India and elsewhere. Where number of resources, properties, land, building are in the category of awqaf. And most of these properties are underutilized. Most of them are underutilized. Now, what is this system of awqaf, and how can we ensure awqaf and its role in equitable distribution of income to the different section of society? That is, the point of discussion. Okay. Zakat, as you all know, which is the integral part of Islam, and if you are a Muslim, you have to pay zakat regularly. What mechanism we have zakat? What is the logic of zakat, and how do we ensure that zakat is used as an economic instrument for equitable distribution of income? zakat सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि रमजान आया और zakat निकाल दी हमने. वो क्या mechanism है, वो क्या system है, so that we ensure that this is used as an economic tool, for this utilization of utilization of this zakat in the welfare of humankind, and in the so that the distribution reached each and every section of society. Last but not the least, we will talk about the concept of cooperation and brotherhood. Always remember that Islamic banking and finance or Sharia is primarily based on the concept of brotherhood and cooperation. That is the welfare of society. Our duty is that we will ensure a financial system that is very cooperative to each and everyone, irrespective of religion, irrespective of caste, irrespective of creed, irrespective of race, irrespective of color. All these things have no place in Sharia. All these things have no place in Islamic financial system. Islamic financial systems talk about the unity. Islamic economic systems talks about the economitable distribution. Okay, we will talk about the various aspects of this, concept of cooperation. We will also talk about the infrastructure, institutional infrastructure, which support Islamic finance. Then there are a number of, I would say, institutions which are actively playing their role in the development of Islamic economics. To name few, we have a prominent bank in Saudi Arabia, which we call it Islamic Development Bank, which is headquartered in Jeddah. So Islamic Development Bank is playing its role, not now, quite a long time back. They have started, I think, in 1960s or 70s, and since then, since its inception, they are playing a very critical role in promoting the Islamic banking and economic concept, and they have done a good job. But other than Islamic Development Bank, there are other banks in the world, in America, in UK, in Singapore, Australia, in the other part of the Gulf countries, which are actively playing their role in the promotion of Islamic economic principles and Islamic banking. We will draw an overview. We will show you a picture of various institutions with special focus on Islamic Development Bank, how they are playing their role in the overall concept of cooperation and development. That is, the point. So, in nutshell, the purpose of this subject is to differentiate the concept of conventional economics, Islamic economics with conventional economics. Number one, it tells you about the core concept of Islamic faith, which is the background of Islamic finance. It talks about the technical principles of Islamic economics, which is the major prohibitions. It talks about the competition and cooperation. It also talks about the consumer's point of view, which is consumer understanding the consumer behavior, and it also talks about the producer's behavior. We also talk about the various mechanisms that we have in our hand for uniform distribution, which is in the form of zakat and awqaf. And last but not the least, it tells you about the role of various institutions in the development of cooperation and brotherhood among the society. This is all about the syllabus of Islamic economics. Now, will you please tell me any specific schedule that you have, or otherwise, then I will fix my schedule accordingly, where I can interact with you on daily basis, because we have as you know, that we have examinations are near, and we have to somehow cover up this syllabus at the earliest. So, will you please tell me, Umama, what do you say? What should No, no. Mama, I will just check it out the syllabus. I just check it out the timetable, because I know that there is a slot for Islamic economics. Maybe some other teacher. No, I will. What I will do, I will follow the schedule, which is mentioned in the timetable, because this 10:30 to 10:30 to 11:15 is the break time. I don't want to, take this class in the break time, because this is the break time for you. So unnecessarily, I just don't want to disturb. I would like to take my class in the scheduled period. अच्छा, तारक सर भी लेते हैं कभी कभी क्लास. ठीक
So
है.
you can take in the time in the evening after 4.
हाँ, मुझे ये लग रहा है. I take your feedback. If you okay, then I would take the class from 4 to 5.
Yes, sir. This is the best time, I think.
हाँ हाँ, मुझे ये लग रहा है
सर
कि
मॉर्निंग भी सही रहेगा, क्योंकि मतलब 4 बजे तक क्लास होती है, तो फिर काफी लंबा भी हो सकता है ये.
रोज 4 बजे क्लास हो रही है आपकी?
मतलब लगभग 2 दिन होती है, और बाकी नॉर्मली 2:30 बजे तक.
3 बजे तक भी.
हाँ हाँ, तो कोई बात नहीं. जिन 2 दिन 4 बजे तक होती है, उस दिन मैं मॉर्निंग में ले लूंगा. कोई बात नहीं, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है, मैं कोई फिक्स नहीं कर रहा. बस ये कि मुझे लगता है 4 से 5 वो थोड़ा सा इट्स अ पीसफुल टाइम फॉर ईच वन ऑफ अस।
तो
आप
4
भी
to 5 सही रहेगा।
हाँ हाँ 2 दिन मैं मॉर्निंग में ले लूँ, तो मॉर्निंग में आप मुझे कोई टाइम बताइए, आई एम रेडी टू टेक द क्लास फ्रॉम 8 AM ऑल्सो। बताओ मुझे 9 8 9 जब भी आप कहेंगे।
So you can take after 9 in the morning.
तो फिर आफ्टर 9 ले नहीं सकते ना अब्दुल अहद, क्योंकि फिर आपके और भी तो शेड्यूल है ना क्लासेस का।
यस सर 8 to 8:50 we are
तो आज की आपकी क्लास थी जावेद सर की क्या? डू यू हैव अ क्लास टुडे जावेद सर? तो हाँ वो मुझे लग रहा था जावेद सर को, ही ड्रॉप्ड मी अ मैसेज दैट आई एम इन द क्लास, सो आई थॉट दैट जावेद साहब वाज एंगेजिंग द क्लास। नो प्रॉब्लम। तो ठीक है, अगर आप ले लिए तो बहुत अच्छा है, आप ऐसा कर सकते हैं, क्लास हम ले सकते हैं। ओके, तो आई विल वर्क आउट एंड आई विल डिस्कस इट। देयर इज नो फिक्स शेड्यूल, मैं फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी के साथ क्लास लूँगा। आप मेरा मकसद आपको परेशान करना नहीं है, माय पर्पस इज टू इंटरैक्ट, लेकिन उसके लिए एक टाइम टेबल तो सेट करना होगा हमें। फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी मेरा तो प्रेफरेबल टाइम यही है कि वी विल टेक इट फ्रॉम 4 to 5, 2 days एटलीस्ट वी हैव 4 to 5, रिमेनिंग डेज आई विल टेक एज पर योर अवेलेबिलिटी। कभी कभी हम 10:30 से 11:15 पे भी ले लेंगे क्लास, कोई इशू नहीं, ठीक है चलो। ओके, दैट्स इट फ्रॉम माय साइड टुडे। You please carry on with your class schedule. Thank you very much for attending the classes. Oh mama, I'm thankful to you for interacting and for coordinating.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.